Welcome to Deal Closers with Anette, Talie, where we focus on the deals. Our guests are real estate closers who will share in detail the whole process from finding a deal to closing it, as well as strategies and tips to help you do the same. Here is your host, Anette, Talie.
Welcome to another episode of Deal Closers. I am your host, Anette, Talie, and my guest today is Mitch Jaworski. Welcome, Mitch.
How are you, Anette? How's it going?
I'm very excited to have you here today because we know each other. We are personal friends and we are in the same town here in Florida.
Yeah.
And so we get to hang out together at least twice a month in different meetups that we attend. So
you gotta love the meetups.
Excited.
That's how we became friends. We met at the meetups. See, networking. Got to network.
So important. Networking has come up on every single interview that I have done because it's so important.
What is that? Your network is your net worth. That's like the tagline going around now. It makes sense.
Absolutely, yes. So let me tell you a little bit about Mitch. After more than a decade of trading the stock market, Mitchell jumped into real estate investing in 2014. He focuses mainly on buying, renovating, renting, and refinancing properties, widely known as the Brrrr strategy. He takes a low-risk approach to investing and shares this method in his book, Scaredy Cat Guide to Investing in Rental Properties, and on his blog, scaredycatguide.com. So I welcome you to visit his website. He is a wealth of knowledge. Welcome, my friend.
It's good to be here.
The Deal.
So we are going to talk today about, I am assuming, a Brrrr property that you did.
Yep, that is pretty much 90% of what I do.
So tell me about it. What's the deal? Where is it located? What type of asset?
It is a two-family property. It is located in like mid-north Massachusetts, not too far from actually the New Hampshire state line. And it is very cold up there this time of year. We originally saw it in February of 2019 was the first time it caught my eye. And then, it was a long process, so to speak, in terms of it becoming available again, becoming a short sale, us negotiating it. So it was something that really taught me a lesson in that patience is a virtue. Everyone wants to, be rich tomorrow, but sometimes deals fall to you, over time or while you're doing other business. So, for me, it was sort of a lesson learned as well, to just kind of keep plugging away at things, keep doing business, keep doing other deals, but you never know which deal in the pipeline is going to come back to you. And that's how we've actually gotten our last few properties that have actually kind of come back to us after, their initial buyer or the deal wasn't able to close. So that's been nice to kind of have some fall in our laps, so to speak.
Awesome. All right. So how did you find this deal?
Honestly, it was originally on the MLS. Like I said, in January, February of last year, about a year ago at this point. It was on the MLS. It was listed for, I think, around $130,000. My business partner, who is local up in Massachusetts, went to look at it. We reviewed the deal and we made an offer on it at, I think it was $120K. We made an offer. We didn't get the deal. It ended up going on the contract, and it stayed on the contract for some time. And I'm going to say maybe 6 months later, it came back on the market, but it came back on the market as a short sale, which was interesting to me because I was like, all right, what price, point does this person, become a short sale? Like how much do they owe on it? Because when it got relisted as a short sale, it was listed at $99,000. And I mean, I'll pay $99 all day for this thing. I was ready to pay $120. So I figured that the amount that the owner was underwater was probably somewhere, around there, like, 100 to low ones. I mean, because there wasn't a big spread between what it was originally listed for and what the, short sale was. And how it is with the short sale listings. The price that it's listed at doesn't mean it's the price that it's going to sell for or the price the bank is going to approve. It's basically a price that the real estate agent uses to get everyone excited, to, you know, drum up interest, and then hope, you know, that he can get it approved at that price. Yeah, when we started the short sale at 99, it was listed actually by a different agent at this point. So we reached out to that agent to see what the deal was, and you know, we ended up putting in an offer at 99 after going to see it again, actually, because it had been so long. So we wanted to kind of go through all the work that it needed. So yeah, that's how it all started. When it hit back to market, you know, we made an offer now at the quote unquote, you know, listing price, and that's what got the wheels in motion on that property in terms of trying to acquire it.
Awesome. And for people that don't know what a short sale is, can you explain?
Yeah, so basically what happens is, and, you know, we still see them. We don't see them the way we did back, you know, after the bubble burst in, you know, '08, where there was short sales left and right. But basically a short sale is when someone's trying to sell the property for less than they owe on it. And essentially the bank is who you're really negotiating with, because they have to accept that offer and essentially say, all right, we're going to eat X amount on the mortgage, which ends up just being a write-off for them. So let's just say, you know, for a hypothetical example, someone owes $200,000 on a home, and they get a buyer that's willing to pay $150 for it. The bank then decides, all right, are we willing to accept $150 and eat a $50,000 loss, you know, on this loan, or not? And that's really what it is, you know, in terms of a simplistic, you know, explanation. So that's why they usually take a long time. Short sales, you know, I've seen take anywhere from 6 months to more than a year to get approved. The irony is on this one, it came together faster than any short sale I've seen before, which did throw me a curveball in terms of getting the money to close on the deal in time. But, you know, that's a whole nother question.
Right. Yeah, exactly. So you ended up offering 99. So you had right there, you already have some equity built in the deal.
Yes. Yeah, I was excited at that price if we could get it approved. So that was I guess that's the next piece of it, you know.
Right. So yeah, tell us. So what did you pay for, and how did you negotiate this deal?
So what happened was, in a way, I'd rather have negotiated directly with the agent and the bank, but this property, and it was in the listing that it was being handled by essentially a short sale mitigation company. There's companies out there that's all they do, is they basically negotiate short sales. So I had to essentially, you know, just let them do their thing, and, you know, there was a set fee that they charge for it, and, you know, all that was literally in the description of the listing, and I was fine with that. So I dealt with them. They were kind of the middleman, and in the end, it actually ended up being pretty simple. And surprisingly, the bank countered at 105,800, and I was like, all right, well, that still works. And the reason for that was because the owner was on a VA loan. He was a veteran, and based on some VA guidelines and standards, there was a certain amount that basically they needed to have at closing, and in order to get that amount, basically the price worked out to 105,800. So I was like, all right, you know what? The numbers still work for me. I would have loved to get it, you know, obviously, you know, at 99, but the numbers still worked. They were still less than I was originally going to pay for it. So I accepted the deal, and yeah, we ended up closing at 105,800. And the thing was that from the time I put in the offer on the short sale to the closing date was actually a 4-month turnaround, which anyone that's done a short sale will say, like, wow, that's really fast. Like, that never happened. Like, so honestly, I was planning on this deal closing, you know, early as 6 months down the line. And I kind of set up my financing in that way, because I was working on another project, and the plan was to refi out of that one and then use that money to pay for this one. And I will be, in fact, I'm actually in the process of refining out of that deal. I should be hopefully closed in a week or two. And it would have been perfect, because I was like, all right, you know, that's when I'll use that money to buy this one, because there's no way I thought I was closing, you know, before January. And long story short, we actually closed a week before Christmas. So yeah, we closed. It was about 3 weeks ago now, the time of this podcast. And
so how did you fund it?
Well, so that was the thing. So now I'm scrambling a little bit, because for the most part, I have a set amount of working capital that I built up over the years, and I've used that to finance my deals. And generally what I'll do is I'll buy them cash with my own capital, and then I'll refi out and I'll just rinse and repeat. So this was the first time I had to borrow, I guess, short-term money up front. So I thought about doing the hard money lending thing. You know, I know some good hard money lenders. There's nothing wrong with hard money if you need it. It's expensive, but if it gets you a deal that's a good deal, then, you know, it's just the cost of doing business. So I looked at.
Let me stop you there, because we were talking about private money on the previous interview.
Yes.
So tell me, what's hard money for people that don't know?
Okay, so yeah, I mean, it's funny because you have all these terms that get thrown around: hard money, private money, and in a way they're kind of one and the same. But when someone refers to hard money, basically what they're talking about is generally a loan of 12 months or less. It's an interest-only loan, and usually you're going to pay some points up front, and you're going to pay usually a higher interest, because since it's a short-term loan, I mean, that hard money lender, you know, they need to make a profit somehow. So for the most part, the industry standard is 10 to 12%, and you're looking at like 2 to 3 points, and it's impacted by the amount of experience you have and if you've done any business with that hard money lender before. But it's generally, like I said, short-term, interest-only with a balloon payment at the end, as opposed to when people refer to private money, that's usually longer-term loans. I'm working actually, when I refi out of properties, I generally use private lenders because I don't have a W-2, so it's hard for me to get business from traditional banks, since I'm, you know, quote unquote self-employed as a full-time real estate investor. And that private money, you'll be able to get long-term loans, even 30-year loans, and your rates will be more, you know, a traditional long-term rate. It'll be higher than, you know, your mainstream bank, but these days it's not so bad, the spread. You know, you're paying maybe a point or two higher in terms of interest rate. So it's been nice to see that space get more competitive because the rates have come down. So yeah, that's the main difference, you know.
And when you're using hard money or private money, it doesn't really go in your credit, right? As if you were using
that is what's beautiful about hard money and private money, is that you can borrow, like for instance, if you own properties in an LLC, you can borrow under the LLC, and that loan isn't going to hit your, you know, credit report. A lot of lenders do want a personal guarantee from you, which is fine. I don't mind giving a personal guarantee, because the bottom line is that's not going to hit my credit unless I default on the loan, and I don't plan on going out of business. So fingers crossed. So if I make payments and I'm good on the loan, then I never have to worry about it hitting my personal credit, which is great, because now I can essentially use my personal credit profile to help get funds, but it's not going to impact my personal credit. So I will say I'm happy that I have a good credit score, because that does impact the rate with, especially with the private lenders. They have tiers, and basically, you know, your rate moves based on those tiers. So luckily my credit score is a top tier, so I'll get the best rate. But as far as your personal information, that's really all they care about, is your credit score to help determine your rate. After that, it's all about the property. And as long as the numbers on the property work, then you should be able to secure financing in your LLC, which is great.
Awesome. All right. So I'm going to let you continue. You were talking about the hard money.
Oh, yeah. So how I ended up funding the deal. Yeah. So I was looking at the hard money lenders. You know, I know some from some of the meetups I go to, but also I even have a friend that I met from a meetup years ago who ended up kind of becoming a hard money lender himself. He did a deal with another friend of mine that, you know, had come to the meetup, and that kind of set him off in the hard money path. So I reached out to him. We were looking to do something, and then it turned out that, and first time I've ever kind of done business with family, my brother recently had a chunk of money free up, and it was kind of just sitting in the bank doing nothing. So I told him, like, hey, listen, you know, I'm looking for money for about 60 days. I got to close on this property. I got another refi going. I was just like, do you, you know, you want to make, you know, some interest, you want to make some money on your money. And, you know, he's always up for that, because he actually kind of flips cars on the side. He's a car guy. So he was like, sure. He's like, I got more than I need to use for that. So I ended up doing a deal with my brother, actually, to get the, because I had about 50 to 60% of the money myself. So I essentially needed the rest of it. So he basically gave me the other 40%. And, you know, we came to terms on, you know, what the deal was going to be. And, you know, that was it. You know, that's simple. hadn't raised money from family before. But yeah, so I took, like I said, I took my money that I had, my working capital that I still had left over. I took the remaining amount I got from my brother, and basically turned my brother into my hard money lender.
Amazing.
Yeah, and I will admit the terms were better than if I used a hard money lender because, you know, he doesn't do that for a living. So like the terms he's getting are much better than what he could do with his money otherwise. I mean, he was thinking about putting it into like a 6-month CD or something. I was like, no,
2%,
no.
1%.
I'm like, no. I'm like, let's make you way more money in like, you know, half the time frame. So yeah.
And that's the beauty of this hard money and private money. It's all negotiable. You know, depending on the other options they have. If they are thinking about putting their money on a CD, which is 1% versus getting like 6%, you know, it's going to be appealing, 8%, 10%.
And that's the thing too. I mean, I had to get comfortable with that even, you know, years ago in terms of, you know, private money. It's just when you're not dealing with a bank, and you're dealing with a private lender or even just, you know, someone in your network that has money to lend, like Annette said, it's completely negotiable, and, you know, the terms or whatever you guys agree to. So it's great because you can find that, you can find a win-win situation, you know, and that's essentially what I was able to do. I was able to find money that was going to cost me less, but at the same time, provide a better return for someone else. And that's a win-win. I love win-win situations. I look for them all the time because, you know, I feel like in negotiations, people always think that there has to be one winner and one loser. And that's completely wrong. Like you can find those win-wins where both parties are benefiting from it. And, you know, that's a big part of, I don't know if you ever read the book, Never Split the Difference.
Absolutely.
Such a good book. So, yeah.
Twice.
I actually need to reread it again. It's been like 2 years. And I think, you know, a lot of the principles kind of like, you know, have faded a bit. So, but yeah, so that's how I ended up finding the money for the deal. I had no problems going hard money. I was literally, you know, had already started doing the paperwork and whatnot to do that. But then I saw an opportunity to essentially save a good chunk of money and, you know, kind of get my brother a good return. So I ended up going that route. But yeah, otherwise I would have used hard money. There's nothing wrong with using hard money. If it gets you the deal, take it, because I'd rather spend a few extra $1,000s and get a good deal than not get a good deal at all.
Absolutely. Yeah, definitely. Okay. So I have my last question, but I wanted to get back into, you were talking that they listed it for 99, but then they wanted 105, 800, but the numbers still work. When you say that, what do you mean the numbers still worked?
Okay. So basically there's two things I look at. And, you know, from day one, I kind of started, I was doing the Brrrr strategies as my investment thing before I even heard of what Brrrr was, or before maybe it was even a tagline. But, you know, the whole, you know, you buy, you renovate, you rent it out, and then you refinance. So what I'll look at is I'm going to look at, in a way, it's similar to like a flipper. Like you want to know what your ARV is going to be. Like what is my after repair value after I've done all the renovations on this property? So I looked at the ARV and I knew that what I'll do is I'll do like a range because I want to take a conservative approach. I mean, that's why, you know, my book is called Scaredy Cat Guide and my website, because I have a risk averse approach because I basically don't want to overexpose myself, you know, so I run into trouble. I like to kind of do the slow and steady, safe, you know, kind of route of investing and build wealth over time. And I looked at it. I was like, all right, it's tough to run comps in this area because it's not very cookie cutter. You know, down in South Florida where we are, it's pretty simple. It's very cookie cutter down here. On the Northeast, you have a lot of older homes. You have a lot of stuff that's different. So I was looking at the ARV. I'm like, all right, this thing literally could appraise for anything from 150 to 200,000. So I'm gonna just assume, you know, 150 is my worst case, you know, and doesn't make sense. And it still did, in that I knew I didn't have to put a ton of money into it. I mean, honestly, we're going to end up putting probably 10 grand into this property. So the goal for me is I want to be able to refinance all my money out and still cash flow. And basically, if I'm able to do that now, I have 25% equity in the property because I'm generally doing a 75% loan to value with these private lenders. B, I have my money out of it. So now my cash on cash return technically is infinity because I have $0 in the deal. And then I still want to be able to cash flow. My goal is always to get at least $100 a door. So even at 150, when I ran the numbers, it still worked. So I was like, all right, sweet. Worst case scenario, I'm still good. I can get my money out of it. I can cash flow. Actually, this thing's going to cash flow very well. It's actually going to beat those cash flow numbers by a good chunk. So that's essentially my starting point. What is my ARV? And that's as simple as, just looking at other listings on sites as simple as Zillow, or have an agent run comps for you. I have my license down in Florida, so I'm used to running comps, so I can kind of get an idea, even just using information on the internet, because you can still see, recently sold homes, on sites like realtor.com and Zillow. So once I have that idea, I kind of use that as my anchor, and then I'll go from there. And then as far as, figure out cash flow, that's a whole, another topic in terms of running numbers and using a property calculator and all that good stuff. But yeah, so in the end, like I said, find my ARV, and then, all right, am I going to be able to refi out all of my money based on this? So with the 105.8 purchase price, and after closing costs, I was in for like 110. I need to put in 10K. So that puts me at 120. It's like, all right, well, that for the most part works, even if I can only get 150, which is worst case scenario. I'm pretty sure it's going to appraise for a good chunk above 150. And that's it. It's at that point, it's like, all right, what's, is 75% of, 150 pretty much all my money? It's right about, it's right in that ballpark. So worked for me. I saw, quote unquote, the worst case scenario, still satisfied, what I was looking to do. And, I was able to push forward. Obviously, the renovation part is a whole nother, story, because that question comes up a lot from new investors. Like, oh, well, how do I estimate my renovation costs? And it's tough because you want to give them like a magic answer, but there isn't. It comes from experience. I mean, there are standards out there, like, what is it, like $18 per square foot, I think maybe is the number.
I would think it will vary per area too, because materials are different, labor is different.
100%. And that's why it's hard to use like, a rule of thumb, because, and I've experienced that between investing in Florida and Massachusetts. I mean, my cost, my plumbing costs are vastly different between those two states. So that's something that's hard. And the only way I always tell people, experience is the best teacher. So, I mean, you want to learn, you want to listen to podcasts, you want to read books. I've done all that, when I first started, especially, and I still educate myself now. But experience is the best teacher. Like if someone comes to me for mentorship, I can only teach you so much. Like you're going to learn things that I haven't experienced, because experience is the best teacher. So, the best you can do is ask other people to get a general idea, and then get quotes. Just when you have an inspection period, use that to not just get the property inspected, but to have contractors come in and give you bids. I mean, because you want to get a few bids anyway on jobs, and that's how you can kind of estimate your renovation costs. So those are the
especially the things that scare you, right? Like if you don't have experience, like when I started, I always brought a roofer because roofs scare me. They could be very expensive in Florida, so I always bring my roofer. Termites in Florida, I make sure that the inspection has termites. They check for termites to make sure that the wood is good. And so you just bring the people, the electrician. That's the other thing. Always check for electrical problems, aluminum wires. So, have an inspection and take that time to bring other people to give you prices. And then you're going to be able to have a better understanding of what you're going to need.
100%. And that makes sense. I mean, like you said, things that scare you. I mean, for me, we're doing a project up there that essentially we took it down to the studs, and that's actually really the most comprehensive renovation I've ever done. And, we had to put in brand new plumbing, brand new electrical. The home was built in 1900, so everything was just old and broken. And so that was beyond anything I'd done. So, I mean, we called a lot of plumbers. We had a lot of plumbers come out, and we got quotes that were all over the board. And, if we just went with the first guy that, came through and gave us a quote, we would have spent over $6,000 more than what we ended up settling on with a different plumber. So it's good to get bids, and you can definitely learn a lot in terms of what things will cost on projects.
All right. All right. So for the, I know what your exit strategy is because I know you, but
Rent it out.
what are you doing with this property once all this Brrrr system is done?
Yeah, so the ultimate goal is, like I said, we're going to get tenants into the 2 units, and then we'll refi out. And then once that money's refied out, we're going to look to do the next one. And really, the end goal is to add it to our portfolio, build our cash flow. As far as my LLC up there with my partner, our end goal is basically more. It's just to keep building the rental portfolio, and we're looking to either sell, 30 years from now, when we're old and gray, or leave the properties to the next generations. So my business
And
partner's got to.
that's very important when you're working with a partner to have that same goal, because
Yes.
one partner could want to sell in 5 years and you want to hold it and build wealth. So you got to be on the same page when you are doing these partnerships.
And you know what? And just to touch on that real quick, I kind of was a lone ranger my first 4 years of investing, because I'm just whatever. I don't know. Maybe I'm a control freak. I don't know what it is, but it took me some time to finally partner up with someone. And I will admit, like, my partner is a good friend of mine. It's someone I've known since I was a teenager, and someone whose family is basically like my second family. So for me, trust is a big thing, and that's one thing I knew, is that in the end, like, I could trust him, and we had a similar vision on what we wanted to do. And that's not to say we still didn't lay out a comprehensive operating agreement. That's part of our LLC. That's definitely out there, because you definitely want to make sure that your exit strategy is in paper, because things change. Life happens, and sometimes you have to go a route you weren't planning to. So it's good that you have that laid out, and it's also good to find someone that is also kind of flexible to doing what's best for the business. And we have a property that we're actually going to flip. So we have a property that went from a Brrrr to, we realized that, this will be way more beneficial as a flip, because A, it's a single family, and we're not trying to add more single families to the portfolio. We want to really focus on the small multifamily exclusively, and we're not going to be able to get all our money out of it. So I was just like, you know what, this is starting to look like a good flip, and we'll be able to make a pretty penny on it as a flip, and get while the getting's good. The market's strong right now. Real estate keeps appreciating, so we're gonna strike it when the iron's hot, and we're gonna turn it into a flip, and I guess add that to the resume. So it's good. It's good, and we're both on the same page with it. So it's good to to find someone that is also open-minded and flexible to shift when things change, because everything's not going to go according to plan in business. That's just the way it is.
Awesome.
Expert tips.
And now we are come to the part where you're going to give me 3 tips. And
oh boy.
Mitch doesn't like risk, so he's going to give us 3 tips on how to invest conservatively.
Yes. And you know what? Risk is relative. So, what I might think is risky, someone else might not, and vice versa, because I openly admit, like, the risk that I'm willing to take now is very different than the risk I was willing to take when I first started investing. But that's also because a lot of those things that I thought were super risky, I'm now comfortable doing, because I have the experience, I've gone through it, and I understand, the process. So, really, the big thing for me is, I tell people not to get over leveraged. And that's not to say I don't use leverage. In fact, right now, I'm actually leveraged pretty good as I wait for another refinance to get completed. But what I mean by that is, I always have equity in my property. I know a lot of people will buy properties. A lot of times they'll do even like a live-in flip or something like that, so they can buy it FHA, 3.5% down, all that goodness. I like having more equity in my property than that. I always have 20 to 25% equity in my property. So that buffer lets me kind of just sleep well at night, because I know even if the market turns down, I still have a buffer. And if, God forbid, for some reason I have to sell a property, I know that I'm not going to be essentially selling at a loss. I'm not going to have to come out of pocket or do a short sale, to be able to unload that property. So I like having that equity. Plus, then you have to deal with PMI. I hate what I call junk expenses, so to speak, and purchasers mortgage insurance. That's what PMI stands for. Basically, you're going to be forced to hold that generally anytime you have a loan where there's less than 20% equity in the property. For the most part with traditional lenders, obviously private lenders aren't going to lend usually for less than 20% equity. So that's another expense that eats into your cash flow, and that can cost anywhere from $100 to, a few $100s a month. And it's a good chunk of money. I mean, that could be all your cash flow. So, I basically have a rule of, 20 to 25% equity in my property. Obviously, that does mean you need to have down payment money, which, sometimes is difficult. I was lucky to be able to, kind of save that money up front and really have used it over and over again. So it's like once you have that kind of nut to work with, just, leverage that. Like I leveraged the heck out of that as opposed to over leveraging myself and, basically being 90%, financed.
Right.
So yeah, that's kind of how I play it safe. So try not to over leverage yourself. Use leverage, but don't over leverage. Especially because when we get a downturn, if that happens at some point, you're going to be, you're going to be sweating a bit. And then with that said, there's something that I always preach, and when we go to our meetups is using a property calculator. That would be the second thing that I really preach, and that's being able to run your numbers. Kind of lets you know if you're over leveraged and if you can cash flow. So I have a property calculator on my website, scaredycatguide.com, and it's a basic rental property calculator, and there's default allocations in there for vacancy, maintenance, reserves. And these are the things that I didn't know when I first started investing. I mean, when I bought my first rental property, I had no idea about, allocating for vacancy and reserves and things like that. So I live and die by that rental property calculator. That is actually the tool that got me to stop being a scaredy cat, because I'll look at the numbers and then basically look at it as a pass fail. It's like, all right, am I getting the cash flow that I want per month? Is it meeting my minimum cash flow? And if not, then I know that A, I have to offer much less on the property, or B, it's not going to work and I just need to move on and look at the next one. So especially for anyone new out there, I would lean on a property calculator. They're everywhere. You can find one online. If not my website, there's a bunch of others that have them. Some are even more comprehensive. I keep mine nice and simple.
And free.
And free, yeah. It's free to use. I honestly put it. I put it on the web for myself out of convenience, to be honest with you. And then I was like, you know what? I can share this now, because I used to run around with my laptop with an Excel spreadsheet, and sometimes. You go look at a property, on a whim, and I was like, oh crap, I don't have my calculator with me. So I decided to put it on what was originally my blog that has evolved into a website. So yeah, feel free to use it if you're listening. And then third thing is, I don't even know, to be risk adverse. I really got my two. I mean, the third really, honestly, is. It's funny because it almost sounds like the opposite, but like, don't be afraid to partner up. Like we talked about this earlier about partnering up. Don't be too scared. As ironic as it sounds, is that, it's good to be risk adverse. It's good to invest prudently, because then, you drastically reduce the risk of essentially getting blown up like a lot of people did in 07, 08. But at the same time, don't be too scared. You know what I mean? Don't be afraid to partner up with people, because a lot of times you have a roadblock that can be overcome by partnering up with someone. And we see it a lot when we go to meetups. There's a lot of people that find deals but don't have the money, or find deals but don't have the down payment. And then you have a lot of people that have, a 9-to-5 job that, have funding but don't have the time to find a deal. So partner up, you know what I mean?
And you're sharing there. When you're partnering up, you are also sharing the risk. So it's just not you by yourself.
Well, a valid point. You're diversifying the risk by partnering up. So there's pros and cons to everything. So now you're splitting the deal, but at the same time, you're getting a deal, and like I said, you're splitting the risk. So a lot of people always think about just the plus side. They're like, I got to give up some of the deal. It's like, well, you're also giving up some of the risk too. Mm-hmm. So valid point, Annette. But yeah, so those are really the three things for me. Don't over leverage yourself. Use a property calculator. Like I said, my property calculator is my rock. It's what has led me to be able to take emotion out of the decision, because, I'd be so scared. And, the the first 3 properties I closed on, I freaked out when I walked away from the closing table. I'm like, oh my God, what did I do? And they all turned out to be good deals, but you're always scared that you made a mistake. And then, and the third thing, don't be too scared, partner up if that's what will help you be able to move forward on a deal. And, in a way, in essence, you're diversifying your risk by partnering up. So it is also, lending into that, prudent investing style. So yeah, I like that.
Awesome. And how can people find you?
Obviously, there's social media, Scaredy Cat Guide. You can find me on Facebook. And also Instagram, even though I got to get better about posting on there. And then there's my website, scaredycatguide.com. You can find my blog there. You can find the rental property calculator there. And you can even find me on Amazon. I got the good old book, Scaredy Cat Guide, Investing in Rental Properties.
I got to get my autograph copy.
You got to get your autograph copy. So yeah, that's out you can find it on my website. You can also grab it on Amazon. But yeah, that's pretty much the ways to find me. And if you're ever in South Florida, come to a local meetup. I'm usually at most of them. So there's some good ones.
That is true. I can vouch for that.
Yeah, Anette runs a good one. So if you're down in South Florida, multifamily and more meetup, it's where it's at.
Awesome. Thank you, my friend. I'm so happy to have you on the show. And thank you for adding so much value to my audience. And I will see you at the next meetup. Bye.
Yes, thanks for having me. Take care.
Bye-bye.
This was Deal Closers with Anette Talie, brought to you by Talie Investments. We hope that you enjoyed this episode. Our goal is to provide amazing value on your real estate journey. Connect online at www.talieinvestments.com, where you can find this episode and more. Did you like this episode? Subscribe, like, and share.